What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. Welcome back to another Team of the Week. This one's going to be for week 4 of the Six Nations 2022, which was an incredible weekend of rugby. All 3 games I genuinely believed any team could actually have won each one of those games at some point during that game, which is awesome. That's what you want to see from the Six Nations. So in these Team of the Week videos, of course, we follow a strict set of rules to make it a bit different from everyone else's Team of the Week on YouTube, who just basically picks the same as the Guinness Six Nations every week. It makes it a little bit different, a bit more fun. So the rules will be on screen for you guys now, if you wish to pause it and check out the rules as to why we've done it. And then, of course, after we finish the Team of the Week, we will then move on to talk about the Fantasy League and some of the results that have been going on, because it's getting awfully close, moving towards that Super Saturday. So we'll begin with the Team of the Week. A small caveat I am going to add in here is I actually went and attended the Wales versus France game. However, that does mean that it is a little bit more tricky when you actually go and watch a game live to pick out some of the players who are doing well, just because you don't have the commentary team telling you who each player is. On occasion, if there's something clever happening in the middle of a ruck, it's really hard for you to pick out live in the stands unless they show it on the big screen who it is. So as we're going through them, if you see anyone that you really wonder why I didn't pick the French or the Welsh player in that position, it's probably because I genuinely didn't see it when from my seat in the stadium. So keep that in mind as we're going through with a little bit of a pinch of salt. So starting off in the loose head position, starting out here, I had 2 names. I thought Schoeman had a good game for Scotland, but I wrote that down quite early on in that Scotland-Italy game, and it began to fizzle out, and he didn't really play a great deal of that game. He did get off, I think it was about 45 minutes. The Scotland started replacing some of their front rows and stuff, so didn't play a great deal of time. So for me, I've gone for Ellis Genge in the loose head position, who I thought was awesome. Of course, England going that man down very early on against that Ireland team, and against a good Ireland team going into that game as well, and I thought he played absolutely superbly. They really dominated in terms of that scrummaging as well, which was awesome. So many of the good scrummaging work coming from him in that game. So for me, I've gone for Ellis Genge. On to the hooker position then, and I had 3 names written down here. George Turner, I thought did pretty well, was having some nice running play, which is something I like to see from George Turner. He is, of course, very good with the ball in hand. Jamie George, for a lot of the similar reasons as Ellis Genge, I just thought that front row was working so well in that England team. Thought they were playing really good rugby. And the player that I've actually ended up going for, though, goes to Julien Marchand, who I thought had a really instrumental role in that France-Wales game. That was much tighter than we expected it to. I thought France managing to do well in different areas, including in that scrum. The line-out was shaky, but it wasn't necessarily the throws. It was more the jumpers this week, which is quite surprising for that France team. I thought the throws were good from Julien Marchand, but also the running game from him as well, I thought was very good. So for me, in the hooker position, I've gone for Julien Marchand. On to the tight head for the week. I always find this position really difficult. I just feel like tight heads never really show off that to me, or there's some other reasons why. So I've got one name written down here, and I've gone for Tadhg Furlong, mainly for the running play. The scrummaging play actually wasn't necessarily the best from him. Ellis Genge was really beginning to dominate him in terms of that scrummaging, but did play, I believe, the full 80. I'm lying, sorry. He played about 70-odd minutes before coming off. I thought he had a really good game, Tadhg Furlong. Again, the running play for him was always good. They actually got him out of some really tricky spots when Ireland were being pinned back in that 22. He had a nice little side step on him. I thought he played really well. It was going to be potentially going to Kyle Sinclair, this one, but unfortunately got taken off very shortly after that half-time marker. So for me, I've gone for Tadhg Furlong. On to the locks then, and in the number 4 shirt, I had 2 names written down here. The first one was Itoje, who I thought had a very good, full, solid game for a majority of it. A couple of the marks I had against him were just for some of the penalties, and I did think at one point he was very lucky to get away with not being yellow carded. There was that penalty in the second half where he clearly just reached out and grabbed the arm of the scrum half, and I really thought that was going to be a potential yellow card, or maybe even a penalty try awarded for trying to mess that up. So that was a little bit of a ding on his marker for me, but I can see a couple of people maybe going down the Itoje route. For me, I've gone for Will Rowlands from Wales, who I'm quite a big critic of. I've seen a couple of his games, and it hasn't impressed me an awful lot of penalties. But in that Wales-France game, he really sort of nailed his game down. There wasn't a lot of penalties coming from him specifically, but more really is coming from that line-out position. France are one of the best line-out teams in the world currently, and Will Rowlands got involved so much in terms of that French line-out, stopping people like Cameron Woki, Gelange, all these people getting in the air. I thought he played absolutely superb, managing to disrupt that French line-out, really ruin the French platform. Played the full 80 as well. I was in my preview video talking about the Wales had no replacement locks on the bench, had to do the full 80, and I think overall did really, really well. So for me, I've gone for Will Rowlands. On to the 5 shirt, another 2 names for this one here. Grant Gilchrist, I thought, had a very good game actually for Scotland against an Italy team that was absolutely desperate to come at them. His was more in terms of breakdown work. I thought Grant Gilchrist was very, very good in terms of that breakdown situation. Really doing well in terms of the clear outs. I saw a couple of massive hits from him, which was very impressive for me. But yet again, for the 3rd week out of 4, I have gone for Ruzza from Italy, who just again, it just stands out to me every single week I see him in that 5 shirt. I mean, to be fair, this week there was certainly less 5s to look at. I didn't think Adam Beard had a particularly brilliant game. Valemsa was, had an alright game. We lost the England number 5 to a red card. We lost James Ryan to the head injury. So there was certainly less competition necessarily this week. But Rutzer again, just the running play is so good. Even in the depth of that game, right at the end when you were in the 70th, like nearly the 80th minute, he was still breaking through the lines. He was still making those clean breaks. Players desperately trying to tackle him. I thought at one point he was going to get a try. Thought he played an absolute blinder. So for me, I've gone for Rutzer. On to the back row in terms of the first flanker in that number 6 shirt. 2 names again written down here for me. First one was Darge, who, in all honesty, I did think was going to have his 2nd week in a row in my team of the week. Very good in terms of the turnover plays, really shutting down quite a few Italy attacks. Was Rory Darge single-handedly on his own, playing another really good game. And I can absolutely see a couple of people leaning towards Darge for this one. But for me, I've gone for Courtney Laws here, who, again, just what a phenomenal game from that lad. He's come back after being out of the England team for some time. He's retaken over his captaincy, and then in this game, within 80 seconds, had to switch from playing flanker to being a flanker/lock when you needed him to be, filling in that 5 shirt in the scrummaging. That England scrum working so well, was involved in those lineouts, and absolutely every single time was doing fantastic work, running with the ball in hand. Defensive work was absolutely solid. I'm sure for any England versus Ireland fans out there, you will have enjoyed that game as much as me. So by all means, I think there could be a couple of number 6s here, but for me, I'm going for Courtney Laws. On to the 7 shirt then. One name written down for me here, and that goes to Josh van der Flier, who I thought had a very good game. Again, he's always been just off me. Every team of the week, he's there every single time. I've got him written down, but he always has a couple of penalties against his name or a couple of really silly mistakes that just knocks him down that few pegs, or someone just outshines him this week. There wasn't a great deal of 7 action for me happening this week. I mean, there was a couple of people moving position. There was so much to keep track of, especially with the rules that I follow for the team of the week. But for me, single-handedly going to go to Josh van der Flier. On to the number 8 shirt, and it's slowly beginning to get more complicated. I had 3 names written down here, all for very different reasons. Starting off, I had Matt Fagerson, who I thought had a good game for Scotland in terms of... his was more of a defensive element for me. I actually saw him get a couple of really nice turnovers at really key moments of that game against that Italy team. However, I did feel he began to fizzle out from that sort of 55-60 minute onwards. It was again a bit of a mix-up because some of the players had to switch around for different positions because of injuries and stuff. So for me, I haven't gone down the Matt Fagerson route. I also thought Halafi had a really good game for Italy. His was more from an attacking standpoint. I just thought he was doing well with ball in hand. He was involved in so many of those breakdown situations, just clearing out in the breakdown, just trying to stop all those jacklers. Scotland with so many jacklers now. I thought he did well in terms of just attacking mode. But for me, I've gone for Sam Simmons, who I was trying to keep track of whether Sam Simmons had moved to flanker or if Alex Dornbrand had come in at 8. I wasn't really sure. I'm pretty sure Sam Simmons had remained at 8. He was wearing the 8 shirt on his back, so that's why I've gone for Sam Simmons in the 8 shirt rather than maybe a flanker department. But his was a mixture of the two. Defensively looked really sound, and then attacking, just using him as a crash ball. Him and Alex Dornbrand on the field at the same time, I actually think worked quite well. Both big danger runners, both smashing through the line. But again, defensively, just put your face on the line. That was the way to go about it. Thought he played really well. So for me, I've gone for Sam Simmons. On to the scrum half shirt, and this is a huge week for scrum halves. I have 4 names written down, and not a single one of them is DuPont. Isn't that mad? What happened this week in terms of in the scrum half? So we'll have a quick run through. So Calum Brady, great game for Italy. I was really tempted to pick Calum Brady this week. In all honesty, I thought he played absolutely superb. What a way to come back into this Italian team. Harry Randall, again, another one I wrote down here, just giving energy to an England team, not getting deflated with that red card, just picking up the speed, tap and goes, trying to find gaps in line 30 worked really well. I was actually quite ashamed that he came off so early on. I would have liked to have seen him stayed on for that little bit longer, so that's why I've not gone for him that way. Gibson Park, again, just holding that Ireland team together. I think he might have even got the man of the match in that game, which was quite surprising. I don't know if I would have gone for man of the match for Gibson Park, but he certainly had a very good game. But for me, in that scrum half shirt, it goes to Ali Price, who, as I said in the preview videos, I wish I could see Ali Price run with the ball in hand a bit more and try a few sniping runs and hit the gaps a bit. We never get to see it anymore. Bang! In comes Scotland versus Italy, and it's all Ali Price does, absolutely carving the Italian defence open in that second half, going towards the start of that second half again. Occasionally, there's a couple of really nice runs from him, a couple of really nice passes as well to get away. He was supported quite well by a couple of really good runs by players. So for me, I'm going for Ali Price. In the fly half shirt, two names written down here. Again, I thought Marcus Smith had another good week. Just trying to keep that attack maintained. A couple of really nice kicks, laying them up for people like Jack Noll on the wings. I thought it was really good. I thought he managed to organise that defence quite well, especially when you're working with that 14-man team for so long. But for me, it just stood out. Again, maybe this is a bit of bias from going and watching the game live, but for me, I've gone for Dan Biggar. The energy that he brought to that Wales team in that game, I just thought was awesome. If you were in the stadium, you would see how passionate Dan Biggar was to just keep that Wales team going. There were so many times I thought Wales were going to beat France in this game, and I think so much of it came from the leadership of Dan Biggar. Getting the kicks when he could do was always important just to try and keep them in that game. I thought the discipline was much better as well from Wales generally this week, and Dan Biggar absolutely instrumental in that. So for me, I've gone for Dan Biggar. On to the left wing, three names down here, and in all honesty, I think this will come down to personal bias, because I think this could go many different ways. First name I'd written down was Flier. Thought he had a really good game in terms of just trying to carve around that wing, bouncing players. So you got that, that early run around on Cuthbert on that wing. I just knew it was going to happen. I just knew Flier was going to find the room around Cuthbert on that wing. It was always going to be happening. The two names that I think were really combatant, and I still don't know if I picked the right one. One was Jack Noll. I thought he had a superb game, having to cover the left wing, but also having to move into that scrum so much in terms of that flanker position, and actually beating Ireland in the scrum, also getting in there, adding his weight, adding a technical aspect. Really, really good for him, as well as good high ball retention. Was doing very well in those aerial battles. Good pressure. Thought he did really well. But for me, I've gone for James Lowe, mainly for the attacking running play, making huge meters, clean breaks, getting over that try line. Thought he played really well. A couple of people picked him in the fantasy, which was a really good move. So for me, it would either be between Jack Noll or James Lowe, I think was what probably a lot of people would have gone for. But for me, I've gone for James Lowe. On to the inside centre at that number 12 shirt. Two names written down here. First one was Sam Johnson. Who had a good game. It's such a hard one for me. Sam Johnson had a good game. He made good meters. He got himself a try. He was finding some clean room through some players and stuff. The reason I haven't gone for Sam Johnson was mainly just down to what I could only classify as maybe a bit of a selfish game. There was a clear pass that was going out onto the wing. It was going to be caught by Kyle Steyn. It was going to go for a Kyle Steyn try. Maybe I'm being a bit biased here because I had Kyle Steyn in the fantasy league. But Sam Johnson ran in, completely basically took the ball out of his hands and ran over for the try, which, finally got the try, but I thought it was a weird move. There was two separate incidents where there was a clear 2-on-1 with so much room, and rather than giving the pass, just ran into the tackler or tried to do a little dummy pass, and all it needed was to give the pass. So although he did well in the game, I think there was a selfish element to his game, and I just wish if he'd given a few passes, I think Scotland would have cleared that Italy team by a couple more points. So for me, I'm going for Dante. Again, What a great game. What an awesome game. Again, just defensively, this lad is absolutely sound. He is making huge collisions all around the park. I've tried to look at the stats for Dante. I can't find his tackle stats. But all I saw in the stadium was him just clattering into people, either being the first man tackler or the second man tackler, just stopping that Wales attack from getting going. I thought he played absolutely brilliantly yet again. I think when we get round to doing the team of the tournament, I'm already thinking Dante might be in there in terms of that inside centre shirt. On to the outside centre. Again, a busy day here. I had Fiku written down as one name. I thought he was having a good game, but again, it began to fizzle out in areas. Marchant. After everything I was saying in terms of the preview video that I didn't think Marchant was necessarily going to do that well in that outside centre shirt, really showing off good play. I was quite surprised actually by how much he was being impacted into that game, finding those clean breaks, Henry Slade using that distributor technique as he did, but also just the kick chase. So many good kick chases from Joe Marchant going in there and managing to close down the space, making some big tackles as soon as the catcher gets onto the ball. Really nice from him. But the one name I've got written down here, as I'm sure most people would have written down in this outside centre, I think for the second week on the bounce, can't remember if I picked him last week, goes to Chris Harris, who had a phenomenal game again. 2 tries, defensive, awesome, attacking, awesome, supporting the runners, brilliant. Think he's doing absolutely brilliant. This might be the best tournament I have seen from Chris Harris in his career. In all honesty, I think he's having a superb Six Nations. So for me, in the outside centre, goes to Chris Harris. On to the right wing here, and 2 names written down. One was Andrew Conway. I thought he had a really, important role in that game. There was a couple of real spark moments. We got that amazing. In fact, there was 2 of them. There was 2 50-22 kicks that were absolutely awesome. Finding the bounce, getting all the way in. Thought he played really well. Was good under the high ball. Kept the pressure on his own wing really well. Thought he had a good game. But for me, again, maybe this is a little bit biased. I just enjoyed this so much. For me, I'm going for Capuzzo. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right because I don't really know who he is, but he's got a baby face. He's like 18 years old. He came on. But in terms of impact in a game where Italy were actually looking like they could win a game, you wanted to have someone come on. And I thought Bruno was playing so well on that right wing for Italy. I was astonished he came off so early on. On come Capuzzo and gets 2 tries and absolutely dominating that wing. I thought he played so well, supporting running, the attacking running. He's not a big guy. He was bouncing through tackles. He was making his way through. He's his own little Italian Darcy Graham, who again, a couple of people might have had Darcy Graham in here. But for me, on that right wing, goes to Capuzzo. And then finally in this fullback position, 2 names written down here. Again, I think these ones could be interchangeable for me. I don't know who people will go for. The one name I had written down was Keenan. I thought Keenan doing really well. Any of the negatives I think went against Keenan, either whether it be penalties or being isolated, for me didn't come from Keenan himself. It was entirely his team. There were so many good catches under the high ball, making good ground, and his team just not behind him at all and getting left for dead a couple of times. But in terms of the general running play and defensive play, I thought Keenan covered that backfield really well and I thought he was on top of it. But for me, the name I'm going for again, I think a lot of people might go down this route, will go to Stuart Hogg, who just, it felt like he had the ball the majority of the game, to be honest. He always on the ball, kicking the ball, huge kicks back downfield. It got a bit boring occasionally with some of the kicking, but the meters made, didn't he make something like 180, 190 meters? I just thought it was astonishing. He just constantly running with the ball, always involved in those breaks. It was really nice to see from him. So for me, I've gone for Stuart Hogg. And there we have it, guys. That is going to be my team of the week for round 4 of the Six Nations 2022. But of course, like I say in every video, these teams that I make are going to be completely different to the teams you make. I follow quite a strict set of rules, which I'm sure a lot of people won't follow. So I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of different teams. So make sure you do drop it down in the comments who your 1 to 15 were, because I do enjoy having a little bit of a read through them all. So with that done and dusted, we will move on to talk about the fantasy. And there were some big results this week. So starting off with the actual fantasy, coming in at that top spot is Dan Can't Ruck on 215 0.5. It's a good week for Dan. For any of you who've followed the channel for long enough, you'll know Dan did a couple of videos with me back last year during the Six Nations. He was on the channel, and we've got a bit of a competition going on now for that top spot slowly. Sambuca comes in that second place on 212.5. Lord Nicholas on 198. Me just behind on 197.5. Clansman on 194. Kieran having a good round on 190. Bowie there on 183.5. Joint with Mattarello. Poxy on 176.5. And Rodri of Wales there on 175.5, and so he gets less and less. I can't fit them all on one screen. So in terms of the leaderboards going into the final week, we see me retaining the top spot. I have been there since week 1. I am holding it out, and closely in comes Dan, only 7.5 points down. It is getting incredibly close. The teams have changed a little bit since the weekend. Superbrew do update the points as it's been going on. I think I was about 10 or 12 points clear of Dan. They've updated some stats, and Dan has moved even closer to me, so I'm sure it's going to be a real tight round between the two of us. Mattarello and Toicha there on 720 and 717 respectively. Sambuca on 703. Kieran moves up 2 places now into the 694. Bowie is now trying to retain there in 687. Sufton Rugby on 684. Seri is on 663. Roger of Wales 661. Lord Nicholas 654. And Lepore on 651. So realistically, the shift can sometimes be about 30 to 40 points depending on a clear winner. So for me, I think it's going to end up being maybe between myself and maybe Toicha for the first place after the final round, unless someone has an absolutely storming round. None of us called it. I did go for Kyle Stain this week as opposed to Darcy Graham. Everyone went for Darcy Graham, and I was expecting everyone to believe Darcy Graham was going to be the danger man. I went for the dark horse in Kyle Stain. However, Scotland decided they actually didn't like Kyle Stain that much and didn't give him the ball, so I didn't score particularly well on that end. So I'm looking forward to the last week. Super Saturday, going to be super close, and of course me and Dan will probably be messaging each other over the course of the week, giving each other a bit of banter about who will finally win. And with that done, we'll talk about the predictor, which I actually had an alright round this time in terms of the predictor. We'll check out on the screen for you guys the actual round. So we have a joint first place this week between Piet and Seri 2 on 5.5 at the top there. I came in joint second place, I guess, really technically on 4.5. McFoy, Poxy, and Lord Nicholas on the 4. Noll looking at having an awesome, absolutely awesome tournament this year. Maddie on 3.5, Bowie on 2.5, Sambuca and Big Budge on 2 points there, joint down towards the bottom. So in terms of the leaderboards, we see Lord Nicholas just holding out that lead on 19 points, absolutely stretching it away now. Seri moves up 3 places from this week. Really good week for you. Moving up on those 17 points, going to be real close. Poxy's on that 16.58. I have no idea how you get to 0.58, but you've managed it. That's brilliant. I think it's now going to move on to probably a 3-horse race. I mean, I think Lord Nicholas is going to have a real bad week in order to lose out of that top spot, but I think it's going to be down to a 3-horse race. I've managed to climb 2 spaces up to that 15.75. We've got a couple more 15s, and then there is a big gap between 6th and 7th there, about 3 points in it. So I think it's going to be between the top 6 now for that 1st, 2nd, 3rd place, but I'm not going to be counting my chickens anytime soon in order to catch up with Lord Nicholas there rocking on that top spot. But with that done, guys, that is going to be the end of the Team of the Week video for round 4. Next week is coming up to Super Saturday, which means at some point on that Thursday I've got to try and get 3 videos done, and with the course of moving house I no longer have any internet, so it's going to make it a little bit difficult. So you might see those preview videos come up across the Thursday and the Friday. Make sure you are subscribed to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out, and if you have enjoyed this one today, make sure you do drop it a like, because it does really help the channel out. I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.